Hey everybody, it's Tony Sweet and Captain Ron. Captain Ron can't be here today, but you have me, and we are going to have a great time, and we hope you join the chat room. Ask your questions. We can ask directly from you, and we have a great guest for you guys today. You know, in just less than a month, we have Contact in the Desert happening in Indian Wells, California, right outside of Palm Springs. We are going to be there live, and all of our guests in the last month and up till Contact, we are all the amazing speakers and lectures that's going to go on and take place at Contact in the Desert. Today we have an amazing guest. This is his third time. Yes, a trifecta. He has been on our show about 3 times, and every year he's just blows our mind. And Jason Quitt is a leading mind behind astro and multi-dimensional theories. His question behind paranormal experiences and spacecraft sightings are inciting shifts behind common preconceptions in the UFOlogy world. And we are going to talk to him about his experiences and his passions and also his lectures that's going to be coming up at Contact. So please welcome, to Truth Be Told, the one and only Jason Quitt. Hey, Jason. How you doing?
Hello.
How you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing very, very well. I'm working very hard on the presentations, and I'm just getting ready for Contact in the Desert.
And you just told me that you get to go on right after the legendary, the one and only Eric Van Daniken. So,
right, my heart is still pounding.
Yeah, you know, so. There's no pressure. Just pop a few back, and you'll be fine. So you have 2 workshops, or 1 lecture workshop that you're going to be doing at Contact, and I want to start with your lecture. And when it says the spaces between our dimensional worlds, and when you say multi-dimensional worlds, what is that exactly? Because people on the walking around every day, they're going, "What the hell is a multi-dimensional world?"
Well, I would say I'm a little different kind of researcher than most people get to see at these conferences, because with me, I experience these things personally. I've experienced them my whole life, and I'm trying to find answers. So when I say multidimensional space, or the space between space, I'm really talking about outer body experiences. I'm talking about altered states of awareness and consciousness. And I'm talking about all the things that happen in between normal states of awareness.
Right.
So for me, how I got into this whole UFO world, first I was actually into the consciousness world, teaching energy healing and shamanism, and going down that route of energy medicine. And when I would tell my stories about my outer body experiences, I would say that when I would leave my body and enter into this space, I would actually come in contact with different beings. And some of those beings that I came in contact with were the same type of descriptions of beings that people talk about in abductions. So for me, I was coming at it from a spiritual kind of angle. And so when I started talking about it to other experiencers, they would say, well, these are alien abductions, this is alien contact. And for me, I didn't feel that it was. I felt it was something completely different, and maybe we've got it all wrong.
Right.
So we're trying to kind of explore this new kind of avenue where it's, yes, there is physical experiences. And I've met a lot of people that have had physical experiences. With me, though, all the experiences I know are out-of-body experiences, or an altered state experience. So in my theories, or my experiences, the UFO phenomenon and these beings, they are out of phase with us. They're not in the 3rd dimensional space, but they're just outside of it. And if you have the ability to shift your awareness, you can actually come face to face with these beings yourself, and you realize that the world is a much different place than what you originally thought it to be.
Now, When you started having these out of body experiences, was it a traumatic thing, or is it just as a child that a dream state? How could you explain that a little bit more?
Sure. When I was a child, it was very confusing because you really don't know what's happening.
Right.
So it would be passed off as dreams or just really scary dreams. And that's basically where it ended. But as an adult, when these things started to happen, um, it takes on a whole other feeling and life to it. And I would say that the first 500 times, it's very traumatic and scary.
I'm sure. Yeah.
And the first time I left my body, consciously left my body, I thought that I killed myself. I thought I was dead. So it was a very traumatic experience, and it's one of those experiences where it's 100% legit, it's 100% real, and your life is never going to be the same after that. So once you have this kind of outer body experience, near death experience, astral experience, you kind of get a very different perception of this world and the world we live in, because in that state, 100% that consciousness can survive outside of the body. So it's almost like experiencing a physical death. That's
Right.
the only way I could describe it.
In fact, was it last year? I think it was last year. The year before, because we were still at the Joshua Tree Retreat Center. I did have the opportunity to go out to the Integratron, and my really good friend Shar Margolis, who is a world-renowned psychic, been doing her work for over 40 years. Took a tour out there, and so she said, "Hey, I have an extra ticket. Let's go." I said, "Okay, I'll go." And I remember going up into the dome and getting my mat, laying on the floor. They start playing the bowls, and I'm not necessarily a skeptic. I'm pretty open to anything, but I'm pretty saying I'm pretty ADD. So I'm like, sometimes it takes my attention span to really get a hold of the situation. So, but next thing I know is I'm seeing a lot of color, a lot of visuals, and then all of a sudden I start seeing alien, more like creatures, and I'm like, what is going on? I thought, well, maybe it's just because of contact, it's in my head, but it seemed real. And then the next thing I know, it felt like it was 5 minutes. I woke up and nobody else but maybe 4 people were left in the room, and I was still there, and it had already been an hour. And I was like, what the heck just happened? So is that something like a multidimensional experience?
It absolutely is. So I guess it's the sound, the geometry of that space, or even the sacredness of that site, the energy of the electromagnetic fields of the land.
Right.
And what that can do is shift your awareness and perception into an altered state. And what many people forget is that we are multidimensional beings. We're not just physical. We have awareness in other dimensions, but we've never really used that muscle. And when that opens up, it usually scares us because we start to see beings, or we start to see past lives, or emotions and trauma start to come to the surface. So when you are meditating in a very sacred place, like you were, especially with sound is an amazing initiator into awakening altered states. And like you said, you came in contact with beings that you would describe as alien. Right. Now, but so here's the issue that I have, is that when we describe things as alien, the first thing that comes to mind is they're visitors from another planet. They took a spaceship over here.
Right.
And now we want to find the nuts and bolts. How do we get their aircraft and, make it physical so we can travel the stars too? So yeah. I think we have a clash of definitions when it comes to this, because, what if they are not from outer space? What if they're not from some other planet far off in the galaxy? What if they're right here with us now? They're just out of phase with us, and they've always been here.
Well, I was talking to Michael Johnson the hour before this one, and I was asking him, I said, if the extraterrestrials, we'll call them extraterrestrial aliens, whatever you want to call it, if they're so advanced spiritually and mentally, do they even need spacecraft to get here? Because it's like, I've talked to psychics about remote viewing. Like, I was in Los Angeles and I did surgery on somebody through remote viewing in London. And I was thinking, I was like, they're definitely way more advanced than any of our people on this earth. So why do they even need to use spacecraft to get here? Do you agree, or do you think that's possible?
Not only do I agree, I'll just put this out there. If you're an intelligent species, I think space travel is the dumbest way to get around.
Right.
It's not an intelligent way to travel at all. If you are traveling at a very high velocity, any any space debris, it could be even like a chip of paint from a low Earth orbit. If a chip of paint hits your spacecraft and you're going extremely fast, it's going to rip a hole right through your spacecraft. So there's a lot of dangers of traveling through space, and also the distances are so large that it would take any species an extremely long time, even if you're going at light speed, to travel from one destination to the next. So if you're an intelligent species, I think space travel would be the worst way to get around. So they've had to figure something out very different.
And do you think the amount of abductions versus the amount of UFO sightings seem to be a lot more? I may be wrong, but do you think that's one of the reasons or do you think they can actually abduct people and do their experiments through multi-dimensional travel versus physically traveling through time, just time travel?
I would say that a physical abduction is extremely rare. And that a multidimensional abduction, like you described, taking the astral body or consciousness, I would say that would be about 95% of the cases that I've heard of. The issue is that we're not taught about the astral body. We're not taught about the multidimensional world. And if you've never experienced being out of your body, there is very little difference between being physical and being out of your body. It's hard for your mind to comprehend the two different states. So to be out of your body, you will feel as if you are completely physical and real. And if you haven't done that before, it's very easy to confuse the two different states of consciousness.
I mean, that makes sense, because a lot of abductees say it's like a dreamlike state. So that does make sense.
And here's another thing as well, is that someone could say they've been abducted. All right, that's a very loaded word.
Right.
But that's also based on their belief system and what's fed to them in the media. So you see movies about being abducted. So if you have a spiritual experience, let's say like an astral travel experience or an out of body experience, and you see beings like you did in your meditation,
right?
If you have no basis or understanding of what's happening, the first thing you will think of is you're being abducted, when that may not be the case at all.
Now, so do you consider yourself a psychic, or do you have a term for your ability? Because if you can multi-dimensional time travel, or you have to have some mental state of being able to focus to do that.
It's a really good question. I don't have the exact answer of why I'm different than most people. Personally, I think I'm just not numb. I think that's the only answer I can give. I'm not numb to my other bodies, because we do have other bodies. And this is a completely natural state. It's nothing that, in fact, you yourself leave your body every night when you go to sleep. It's just sometimes I take my awareness with me, whereas most people are completely unconscious of the experience.
And how?
So,
oh, go ahead.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So I don't think I'm different. I just think instead of passing things off as dreams, I kind of went down that road of what is this experience, and is this something that should be explored more?
It kind of also reminds me of two movies, The Matrix, and then oh my gosh, the other one, James Cameron, where they put them in the machine, and then they wake up and they're like a
Avatar? Is that what you're
avatar.
talking?
Yes,
Yeah.
is it similar to that? Where do you think it could be similar to The Matrix and Avatar, with how we rest our mind and to be able to go, I don't know if it's mentally into another being's body and live a life on a
I
different planet?
I would say that it's more like the Avatar scenario, whereas your consciousness will move into a vessel, and the vessel is the human form. But you have other forms and other vessels that your consciousness can move into. And when you're having out of body experiences, or different, I'll call them shamanic altered states experiences, your consciousness can move into parallel selves,
Hmm.
for example. So you can be in another world, in another body, and experience something through somebody else's eyes, just like an avatar. And then your consciousness is then pulled back into this body, into this vessel, and you wake up.
And I think that's very similar to some twins, being able to experience their pain, their emotions at the same time, and not even be in the same state, can be on the other side of the country. I've heard that several times of a twin getting hurt and they experience being hurt.
Yeah. And if you're an empath, you can have those sensations with fellow human beings. So you could easily read somebody's emotions, or feel somebody's pain, or see and experience what's wrong or what's going on with them. And again, I think this is an ability that is dormant in every single one of us. And what my theory is that these, we call them psychic abilities today, but I think what they are actually survival mechanisms. And because we live in the society we live in the world we live in today, those survival mechanisms are not needed. So they just lay dormant within us.
Right, right.
But if a person, for example, goes through a traumatic experience or surgery or accident, a lot of those cases, they come out of them with some type of ability, or have some type of spiritual experience connected to it, because those survival mechanisms are going to kick in again.
We have a question from the chat room, and we like to include our listeners. Nicholas said, "Could you be abducted on a multidimensional level while still being active in an everyday world?"
Yes, I've heard many cases of that, where someone could be doing their job or a task, or even driving a car, and they will experience an abduction scenario, or even a missing time, where they'll look up and look down, and the clock is like 2 hours ahead. So absolutely, it could happen.
I'm trying to go back a little bit, because as humans, we've supposed to be evolving, but let's go back to Atlantis, because in Atlantis it seemed like they were way more advanced spiritually, even technology for the age. How do you think we're becoming more advanced, when it seems like if we're comparing ourselves to Atlantis, we're still stunted?
I would say different epochs of time, there will always be masters, and there will always be people going the opposite route.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter if it's Atlantis or here. They may have had different technology, but remember, the world that we create right now is the world of the tools that we need to survive in the society. And it really comes from a lack or a want.
Right.
So we're building up this whole society with very, very specialized tools to do a specific task. And right now, our world is based mostly on capitalism, so resources.
Right.
So all our technology and everything we're moving towards is how do we use these resources in a way that will make us take more resources,
Right.
you know? Whereas in Atlantis, they may have had a completely different path. So, you're looking at, let's say, people in the rainforest who live there, and they're perfectly comfortable, and their environment, they know their environment so well. So they already have the best tools to survive in their environment, so they don't have to really evolve.
Right.
We come into the rainforest with our technology and we say, they don't have anything, they don't know anything. But if you got lost in the rainforest without your technology, you're done. You don't have that survival skills like they do. So you would need to use their technology.
Yeah, I always find it fascinating to watch these National Geographic segments where they're running through the rainforest with no shoes on, and I'm thinking, my God, there's no way I would take my shoes off. So I mean, it just shows you they've adapted to their culture and to their environment, and it is fascinating to watch that, and I would not survive. Put it that way.
But you said the best word is that adaptive.
Mm-hmm.
And a human being is an adaptive creature, adaptive mind, adaptive creature. So if you took a person with no parenting or schooling and you drop them in a forest, for example, they will go into instant survival mode, and they will look to see other animals, what the other animals are eating, how they're walking, how they're doing shelter, and they'll adapt to that environment, seeing what's going around. So this is why you hear stories of, people getting lost in the forest and they turn into animals. It's not because they're losing their mind.
Right.
They need to adapt to survive.
In the multi-dimensional, can we, in traveling, is there a way to include that with not just going from dimensions, but also time travel?
Well, see, this is the best part about being multidimensional, is that in the third dimension, we experience time, which is just the passage of cycles.
Right.
But when you leave the third dimensional world and you're entering into another plane of existence, the laws of time and space no longer adhere to you. So you can pop into any point of time and space, and then we call that time travel, and we think of all the sci-fi movies, and it's so amazing, but really it's just the laws of that realm or that dimension. So for me, when I first started to come out of my body and go on these experiences, we would call them time travel. And as I evolved through the experiences, it became more spiritual. It became more like going back in time and reviewing past lives, or going into another parallel world or other planet to be with another self of myself, to see or experience or to help whatever that being needed at that time. So, it's really mind opening, and it really changes your perception of the 3D world when you have that experience of the multidimensional world. And I think that's why, I think that's what I'm bringing to Contact in the Desert and into the discussion of UFOs and other beings, because the answers that people are coming forth with, it's almost like it's the same information going around and around in circles, and people just argue with each other.
Right.
There's nothing really new that's coming out, and people always are coming forward saying, well, I have evidence, I have materials, I have all this stuff. There is a person that comes out with that every single year since I started this, but it's never panned out and nothing's ever happened. And when I look at it, and I'm looking at the UFO culture, the UFO experience, the UFO crafts, I'm seeing something completely different than people are reporting. I'm seeing this multi-dimensional area that maybe these beings, not maybe, but these beings have mastered something that's beyond time and space. They're mastering dimensions. And once you start to go down that route, everything changes.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that, and I think, you know, many people, the skeptics, always go to, well, I need to see evidence. I need to see evidence. In fact, I think a lot of the evidence is within ourselves. As you can say, you know, most of our multi-dimensional travel, we do it a lot, and a lot of the proof is that in the pudding right there in front of us, and as we sleep and experiences that we've had. Do you believe that past lives not only pertain to people on Earth? Do you believe that I could have had a past life on another planet, another universe, another dimension?
You're using the word past. There's no such thing.
Okay.
It's simultaneous.
So we're living multiple lives at the same time.
That's right.
Right.
That's right. And your consciousness could actually jump between those parallel selves and experience yourself on another planet in what you would consider an alien body. But we have these kind of separations set up in our field or our minds because I would say it helps control. How do I put this? So we don't get messed up in our mind. Try to bring an alien awareness into your mind that doesn't understand, speak English, or know your customs and your memories, and meld that into you. You're probably going right to the insane asylum.
Right. And,
you know, so it's for our benefit. It's actually for our benefit to have these separate lives, separate awarenesses, and sometimes it is needed for a teaching to experience something that's going on, let's say in another world, to experience what that other self is going through, and you bring it back and integrate it here in this world.
Well, I'm going to ask a couple questions again from the chat room, and one is from Nicholas again, and says, "What does Jason think of QHHT, official hypnosis training? What do you think of that? Do you think it's powerful? Do you think it's dangerous?"
I personally don't have any experience with it. From what I do understand and know is that what you're doing is you're opening a door to your own subconscious, and allowing those memories or traumas or teachings or even healings to come through the vessel in this world. So you can be going into past lives, you can be going to future lives or parallel selves, and you will start to integrate that information in this vessel. So it could be both. It could be very dangerous and it could be very helpful.
Right. And that leads us to another question. In your multidimensional travels, Angel says, do you see demons in the places that you go? And I mean, we could replace demons with many things: negative energy, bad experiences. Do you ever experience that?
Almost all the time.
Really?
Yeah. There's yeah. See, and that's another word I don't like. I don't like the term demon or even entity. These are some type of being that has some type of hunger, obviously, and we're all in a hunter and gatherer mentality, even humans. So, so these beings do come here and then, and you just have to kind of hold your own, and you have to always know that you're stronger than them, and you are. So they don't really bother me too much anymore.
But if you say we're stronger than them, how, even if we believe we're not, will they take advantage of, or commit something that not really commit, but is there something that they could do to us in a negative way, even if we're stronger than them and we don't know it?
Yeah. Think of like a symbiotic relationship. So let's say this type of being knows a wound that you hold.
Oh, got it.
Let's say like it's an emotion or a trauma. And what they could do is they could actually stimulate that emotion in your consciousness field, and you'll start to react. You'll become very reactive, and that reaction creates an energy source that they can use to sustain that themselves. So you become this kind of symbiotic relationship with these type of beings in the astral or the dimensional worlds, and sometimes they could really pull your life force. So a lot of people that are really tired and fatigued, they could be drained of energy, especially people that are highly reactive to situations.
Well, we're going to take a quick break. We got to hear from our good friend George Norrie about the upcoming Contact in the Desert, which is May 31st through June 3rd. And our amazing guest here, Jason Quitt, is going to be there doing a lecture and a workshop. And we have some other questions from the chat room, but we're going to take this 1 minute break. We'll be right back right after this.
Join me, George Norrie, in Indian Wells, California, for the 7th Annual Contact in the Desert UFO Conference, May 31st to June 3rd. Contact in the Desert is an epic weekend of adventure filled with exciting explorations into ancient aliens, human origins, crop circles, UFO sightings, disclosure, and the newest evidence of ongoing contact. This amazing weekend offers over 50 lectures, 40 workshops, 8 exciting panels, special events, and a luncheon that I'm hosting. Contact in the Desert also features leading experts including Giorgio Tsoukalos, David Wilcock, Linda Moulton Howe, Michael Tellinger, Eric von Daniken, Doc Wallach, and many more important researchers and scientists in the field. Contact in the Desert is your place for inside information. Join us at thecontactinthedesert.com to get your tickets today. It's time to make contact. That's contactinthedesert.com. Don't miss it. Contactinthedesert.com.
All right, we're back with Jason Quitt, and he's going to be at Contact in the Desert, going to be a lecture and a workshop. He's going to be one of his workshops right after Eric von Daniken, and so I know he's going to do a great job. And in fact, one thing that George said in the commercial that says, finally make contact, but I think what we're talking about today is we really are making contact, maybe not necessarily through physical, but through telepathic and even in multidimensional travel. And I'm sure you might agree with me. Is that right?
I would say that if a being from another world, and let's say it is from another world, a physical planet, the best way for them to communicate with you is through some type of mental telepathic means, and it's usually through dreams. So they can speak to you through dreams, and some of these beings are very advanced spiritually and I would say astrally, where they can actually project their consciousness or their manifest self directly to you and pull you out of your body to have a conversation with you. So no spaceship needed.
One question is, and I'm sure you do, and if not, maybe you can refer them. But it says, Cindy says, does Jason teach classes or have training programs? And I'm assuming it's about the multidimensional travel and just maybe.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't like the teacher role.
Oh, really?
I don't like the teacher role, but when I was going through my experiences, the beings guided me to do Qigong and different type of breathing meditations. Okay. And even in Contact, I am going to be teaching a system that was given to me. We call it the Egyptian postures of power. And they're very ancient posture systems based on the Egyptian statues. And when you practice this, you're building and strengthening your energetic fields, which allow you more easily to enter into these multi-dimensional states.
And that kind of goes over to your workshop about downloads from star nations, the Egyptian postures of used in Contact. Have you done research on, and maybe even through your multidimensional travels, like ancient Egypt, Machu Picchu? Have we learned anything from them that could enhance our abilities, or that you saw that they used their own spiritual connections to reach out to the gods or to the beings?
Yes, but you also have to remember it was a completely different energy then, completely different magnetic fields, photons from the sun. It was a very different type of world back then. And they used the natural elements to assist them in their spiritual growth and initiations. So they use the different elements like the water, the fire. They would use different plant medicines. And I know a lot of people now are very interested in plant medicines for altered states of awareness. But for them, it was more of I would say like a lifestyle where they would use different things to enhance them. Like even the power sites were very, very important to them. So they were very tuned in to what spot in nature they should build their temples. What spot in nature should they put their have their rituals and ceremonies so that it would enhance their natural electromagnetic fields to travel. So they were very much in touch with the earth. And I find now with, I'll say the seekers and the New Age communities, we are living in a different world. We're living in a technological world. We're living in houses where we have Wi-Fi. We're eating processed food. We're driving cars. We do not live a natural life anymore.
Right.
So my suggestion in this time period is if you want to do and get in contact more with the natural universal forces, Qigong is really good. Meditation is really good. But what's even better is just getting outside and being in nature. Just go into forests and just meditate there. And it will start to change the electromagnetic fields of your body.
And that is fascinating because I remember Scott Walter. I don't know if you remember him. America Unearthed. He has a show. Then in fact, it's coming back out. I think on the Travel Channel. And they were talking about a site that used to, because as 2,000 years, it does. The axis changes, different magnetic sites move. Something that like Egypt, do you think it still has the potency that it had back in the day, or do you think that it's kind of, I hate to say it this way, a dead city? Do you think it still has the connections it had to the spirit world, or do you think because of the magnetic shifts and the Earth axis changing, do you think it's changed to a different location?
I would say it still carries a connection, but it's much weaker. I would say maybe 10 to 15% of its original energy.
Okay.
And yes, energy does move and shift with the natural cycles, but again, we've lost that science.
Right.
We've lost that science on how to track these moving ley lines, because before everything, even cities, were built to follow the natural flow of energy. And there is still some cultures, especially in China and Japan, that before building any type of architecture, they send very sensitive people out there to figure out how the energy is flowing on the land and where to position these houses or buildings. So it's still happening, but not as much as before.
Right. And can you explain what astral projection is for this
Sure.
normal folk?
Sure. Every single person on this planet has an astral body, and you can call it a spiritual body or a body that is in a different phase of consciousness. And usually an astral body is completely asleep. So it's almost an unconscious dimensional body that is inside of you always. And during death, actually, that's when the astral body awakens. So a lot of people that die, they can't tell that they're dead because they're in an astral body. It takes them a little time to figure out that they've just died. So in death, the astral body awakens. But for people that meditate and do spiritual practices or go through traumatic experiences, sometimes that astral body gets awareness, becomes aware, and you become aware of it. So that when you start to astral project, it is almost like a death-like experience or a near-death experience where you separate your awareness. You separate your awareness outside of your body into another body state. And in that body state, you're outside of the third dimensional world and you can travel and have different experiences. And then the astral body will return to the physical body and you will wake up just like you've had a good night's sleep.
That I need one of those. um, so, do you think as we move forward in this, next realm? Because I think in 2012 is when the dimension, we started getting more spiritual. We started seeing more people, more, I would say, children that seem to be more connected to the other side. Do you think that this is just more common? Do you think that that we're going to be visitations has increased? Do you think we're going to finally physically have alien contact? What's your theory on that?
If you look back at ancient texts, if you look back at ancient philosophies or spiritual works, there's all these prophecies that talk about a golden age or an unveiling or an apocalypse. And I feel like there will be a time in the future where, like you said, these children already see these things.
Mm-hmm.
There will be a time in the future where this will be part of everyday life. And many traditions talk about this. Even the New Age community now says that you're entering into the fifth dimension or something like that. I personally don't believe in using those terms. I personally don't know what that will look like, but I think that we do have an opportunity to go into those other multidimensional worlds, and we don't need a date. We don't need a date or an event to happen for us to be there. I think we all, through different spiritual practice, especially through certain meditations and qigong, you activate yourself and you take responsibility of your own energy. You don't need an event to have these experiences and connect with the energies that many people in the New Age community are talking about. Nick, you could have it now.
Right. And do you think you can give some techniques or methods that, I know you said qigong, but other things that we can help build our psyche to prep ourselves for, like multidimensional travel, to the astral projection? Because I think the more people that learn this method and realize within ourselves that we have the ability, the world can be a little bit better place and be more understanding to each other.
Yeah. I would really say that there is a technique, and it's very, very simple. And all it is breathing. And all you have to do is bring your awareness to your breath and breathe through your nose. And as you breathe through the nose, you take your awareness right down with the breath, right down behind your belly button. And as you exhale, you bring your consciousness back up through your nose out. And the more you do this and the slower you do this, you're not only breathing air, you're going to start to breathe prana, or energy. And that energy is going to fill your meridians, your body, and it's going to really start to change things. And like I said, it's so simple that it's almost unbelievable. But just the simple act of breathing the right way will have profound effect on your consciousness.
That's great. Well, we just have a few more minutes left, and Jason's always very fascinating. And your calm demeanor, you're one of those guys that you can listen to and like just you're so relaxed. Nothing seems to get your mood up, and other than just calmness. But how do you maintain your daily life when it comes to the craziness? In fact, earlier today, I was listening to a show and they were talking about, the 5G and 6G and the technologies that are interfering with our, own spirituality and our consciousness. And how do you feel the technology, how it's going to affect that? Because it seems to be the more we advance in technology, the more it affects us physically, mentally, spiritually.
It's a war.
It really
is. It really is a war.
Yeah, it feels like it.
And I've been at this for a while. In fact, some of my friends were or still are professors, and they were fighting Wi-Fi when it was coming out.
Right.
They were fighting, just cellular phones, the original ones they were fighting. And it almost seems like this world is moving forward, even with protest.
Yeah, no, it is.
And what we have to do is, if we're aware that these technologies are harmful, we have to become stronger in our own energetics. I think that's the only answer I can give. We have to become stronger in our own energetics to combat the negative effects. And even the simple act of, if you are near a water or beach, putting your actual feet on the silica quartz sand and allowing that water to pass over your feet will pull the positive electrons out of your body. So it doesn't build up inside of you and cause a lot of damage. So there are ways to defrag yourself from being around too much technology. And I'm pretty sure they will create technology to combat the negative technology. And that is coming out soon. I know that.
Good. Well, Jason, as always, thank you so much. You're always fascinating. Again, tell us your upcoming lecture and workshop at Contact.
At Contact in the Desert, I'm going to be speaking Friday night after Eric Von Daniken, and I'm going to be speaking about the multi-dimensional aspects of UFOs. And then I believe on, you'll have to remind me, I think it's Saturday or Sunday.
I think
it'll be Sunday morning. I'm going to be doing the Egyptian postures class. So we'll be talking about different techniques and modalities that you can use yourself, because there is no better tool that you have in this world than your physical body and your consciousness. So if you don't have anything and you can't, let's say, afford expensive crystals or afford singing bowls or essential oils, if you can't do that, guess what? Your body has the answer. So we have to learn again how to use the tool that we already have and how we can build that strength within us.
And thank you so much. And I'm going to be there. So if you guys get your tickets now, get your airline tickets. If you're not in the LA area, come out to Indian Wells and see Jason and all the other amazing speakers there. If not, Truth Be Told is going to be there. Captain Ron and myself, we're going to be interviewing many of the speakers all the way up to Contact and at Contact, and we're going to get those to you. So, Jason, where can people find you, follow you, and all that good stuff?
You can find me on my website. It's thecrystalsun.com, thecrystalsun.com. And you can also follow me on Twitter and Facebook. I have a page. We put out a lot of inspirational memes, and we keep the energy high.
That's great.
Yeah.
But thank you, everybody, for participating in the chat room. We really appreciate it, because without you guys, we wouldn't be doing the show. And thank you for going on our journey to experiencing people like Jason and learning. This is one thing I've always said. I don't know crap. I just learn from people like Jason. I'm on the same journey as you, and I'm trying to find answers. And that's why Truth Be Told is named Truth Be Told. So until next time, thank you guys. We'll see you this coming Friday. And please subscribe to our YouTube channel and right below. And listen, go to our website, truthbetoldworldwide.com, and find out all our upcoming guests. Until next time, we'll see you then.